My name is Femi OK. I'm your moderator for the next 45 minutes. Can I ask, by show of hands, anyone in here retired? Tentative hands going up. Living your best life, so jealous. All right. Anyone in the room a working person? Yeah. All right. This session is about all of us. What is our work going to look like? What does it look now? The future of work is our future, is our present right now to help us navigate what's new, what's different, how do we get through it. We have 5 different perspectives. You'll be hearing from them. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And then towards the end of our session, I will come to you for your thoughts, your questions before we wrap up, all in 45 minutes. This is going to be the best magic trip I've ever performed. Sheikha Najwa bint Abdurrahman Al Thani is the Assistant Undersecretary for Migrant Labour Affairs and Ministry of Labour. So good to have you on such a busy day. We really appreciate it. Ms. Celeste Drake, Deputy Director General at the International Labour Organization, ILO. Good to see you. Welcome. Dr. Sarab Mishra is the founder and CEO of... Dr. Mishra, could you say the name of the organization you founded?
It's called Tayo.ai.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Gassan Costa is the Regional General Manager of Google Cloud. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Alexis Antoniades is the Director of Economy and Professor, Georgetown University in Qatar. Welcome, everybody. These are brilliant minds. How do we even start? For our Doha Forum audience, you are a high-level, very informed audience. So we wanted to bring you something new, what is different in the world of looking at the future of work. Celeste, you're nodding your head, which means you go first.
The danger of following along the conversations too closely. So I think what's new and what's fresh from the ILO perspective, I would say a couple of things. One is that our research shows that artificial intelligence is not going to bring the jobs apocalypse. That may be at some time in the future, but for now, at least 6 times as many jobs are going to be transformed instead of eliminated. And so it's really important that we're ready for that transformation, that people have the skills, that enterprises are ready to adopt AI and to use it competitively so that we've got a very well-functioning economic ecosystem where businesses are economically, socially, and financially sustainable. And on that note, in terms of what's new, some of it is also what's old. In the world of the ILO, it's important to remember that these new job opportunities, that robotics, that quantum computing, that AI, that other digital technologies will bring, still need to be decent work that promotes social justice. So all of these new technologies should not be thought of as a way to get around the basics of decent work for working people, health and safety on the job, non-discrimination, the right to be free from forced labor. How instead do we use them to protect workers? And I'll give you just one example. We have a project in Albania that is using, it's back on, that is using big data and machine learning to help labor inspectors know where to inspect. They look for criteria that might be indicia of a scheme to violate labor laws. They go and they inspect on that basis, and they're finding the inspections are 30% more effective. So that's a really positive way that AI is used to protect workers.
Sarab, what makes you get out of bed in the morning where you're like, the future of work, I am so passionate, this is fresh, I need to say this in Doha?
Well, not sure if it wakes me up in the nights like that, but I think one has to conceptualize this in terms of AI producers or AI consumers. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for job creation if you looked in the producer side, because AI is not just a monolithic AI. It's based on data, models, computing, software, humans are involved to produce AI, but humans are impacted by using it. So there's a lot of room for job creation throughout the AI ecosystem. On the AI consumer side, I think there's tremendous opportunity for economic diversification strategies, right? So there are some nations that might be what might be called a middle income trap, or resource-intensive economies, where there's tremendous opportunity how they can leverage their existing inherent capabilities, whether it be in producing products, services, and sub-areas of specialization. So how do you combine these inherent capabilities that countries are built on to make existing industries more competitive, which also lead to pathways for diversification, into new products and services. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity.
Alexis, when you're thinking about the future of work, you're thinking about the speed of change. Like, so much is changing right now.
Absolutely. And let me say how we try to get some information on the future of work. So one source is big data. So we have collected over 1.5 billion vacancy data posted online to understand how the future of work is changing and which direction. And one of the key findings is that we talk about skills and not degrees. 10 years ago, we would talk about the degree of the future. Now it's all about skills. AI is just one part of it, but what we see is that there are new skills on the block. These skills are very transferable across occupations, and they have very big implications that we haven't realized. For example, occupations are getting closer to each other. And the one sector that has converged the most to all the others is actually the military. Because it used to be about shooting a gun, now it's all about playing video games. The other thing is wages are now start to converge across occupation because of these skills, and mobility is rising, the opposite of what was happening over the last 40 years. But that has, if we understand that, I think there are very key implications, especially for this part of the world. We have very low labor female participation rates in the world, especially in Jordan, in Egypt. And there are many reasons. Women may not be able to leave their house to get education, may not have access to public transportation. But when you think about these skills, these are not necessarily the skills, and you shouldn't tell my students that I teach them and they will have an exam in 2 days, but these are skills they can learn online and they can offer online. So if we understand the changes and we have the right policies, we can really bring millions and millions, especially of women, back into the labor market.
Ghassan, I know that one of the things that you felt you wanted to share with our audience today was citizens, the citizens part in this puzzle. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so really when it comes to Google, our main focus will be on the user experience. But if we need to start with the user experience and the citizen experience, it needs to come first to our employees, to our Googlers, how we are able to make a difference in whatever way and models we are working on. So from our perspective, the hybrid model after the pandemic, it's proven that the hybrid work remotely and in office is something that, from our perspective, it will continue. Flexibility is well needed to really encourage our employees to support on this future work way. Also, investing on the advanced video technologies is key if we need to embrace such a remote and flexible working hours. So as Google also, we are investing a lot on different projects. There is a project called Project Starline, where you will now, with the Google Meet, it's a great experience, but when you will be adding on top the 3D imaging, the immersive technologies, the feel together and the connectivity and the collaboration between people will make a big difference and will support also this hybrid model. Also, the future work is always about making sure the work-life balance is there. This is how we can encounter the right support to our employees, to the laborers, to make sure they have a work-life balance that is clear and keen. This is based on a lot of different AI and automation that will increase productivity and will create a safe environment.
Shika, it's really interesting hearing these different new perspectives from our different panelists. The reason we are even here as a panel is because the Ministry of Labour and the concept of what the future of work, they feel what the possibilities are. Tell us more about that.
Yes, thank you. So one of the main things that we all realize, and I think that as representatives of different sides of the equation, is that change is inevitable. But this change specifically as well is existential. And so all of us are impacted in our different ways. We have international organizations, we have representatives of the industry, of the academic institutions, and all of us are facing this with challenges and opportunities and are excited about what this is going to bring. At the Ministry of Labor, about 3-4 weeks ago, we launched our national strategy for a highly productive and efficient workforce, which covers the period of 2024 to 2030. And I would say comfortably, 85% of the strategy is about using artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and automation of processes. Now, as part of that strategy, it looks at two sides of the coin. The first is in our decision-making, making data-driven decision-making, and looking at policies that are driven by information, by different data analytics that are through our corporate partners from the private sector. But also on the other side, how does that impact the worker? How does that impact the individual in terms of productivity and efficiency of the tasks that they complete, in terms of also their access to jobs, as was touched upon by some of my colleagues, it's becoming easier, but also in terms of working conditions and seeing. So you would rarely find a project that is not trying to capitalize on the opportunities that artificial intelligence and emerging technologies can provide to support these efforts.
Panelists, I'm going to ask you if you truly felt that you heard new projects, new ideas, new initiatives. Saurabh?
The question is new initiatives?
Something fresh? Did you hear something fresh in the opening discussion?
I think the old and the new exist together, and I think we have to accept that. And taking an economics and policy hat on here, right? We traditionally always thought that countries and economies progressed from being agricultural-based society to the Industrial Revolution, when in reality what's happening today is a service-based revolution. So I think for a long time we have been, the global policy community has been focused on one model of growth, has been that of China's manufacturing-led intensive growth. But I think India has taught us that you can create jobs and growth through a service-led model because, one, it's not necessarily capital-intensive, technology, trade, transportability of services and tasks, right, can be transmitted within and across borders without these friction costs. So a lot of those aspects come down to skills, availability of these technologies, but I would clearly admit also there are many challenges, right? Because if you look at AI output as an example in research and development or in terms of publications and patents, we would note that low-income countries and lower middle-income countries are diverging, right? Convergence means that over the long run, countries will all get to the same level of income per capita. Divergence would mean that they will not. So if you looked in terms of AI output, we do see developing countries not catching up. And there are unique challenges, I think, also with labor shortages, or if you look in the case of the United States, 70% of AI PhDs are going to the industry. So one, we have very limited availability of AI scientists in government, even getting away from academia. So there are many other challenges that we need to think about as well.
I don't want to get away from academia. I want to run towards it in the shape of Alexis. You're looking very thoughtful. Articulate your thoughts.
Nobody's watching, right? So I just wanted to have a reflection on what was said. I'm doing research on the future of work. I'm doing research on other topics, but in other topics, I don't get invited in these events where I have people from the ministry, from academia, from Google, because there is the realization that this thing is coming upon us and it's quite big and we need to understand it. And there's recognition that we cannot work in silos and we all have to collaborate in a collective way to understand how better to maximize the benefits and minimize the cost, because unfortunately, parts of the society that stand to benefit from it are different from parts of the society that stand to lose greatly from it. So I want to make 2 points on that, if time allows. So the first thing is, since you talked about AI, I took a look at what impact AI has on the demand for STEM education in the US, and especially the gender gap in STEM, because we know there are fewer women going into STEM, about 24%, even though the salary they get in STEM is 35% higher than non-STEM. So what we found is that AI is driving more kids to go and do STEM degrees, which is great, across all race. Unfortunately, we found that it exacerbates the gender gap in STEM. It really pulls more men into STEM than women because it draws people into engineering and computer science versus biology. And this is very concerning because it took decades to minimize the wage gap between men and women, but the growing jobs will be in STEM, and if it's only men taking those, then it will reverse the progress we made. The other point I want to make and end with this is I was in the Philippines last month with the Asian Development Bank. They are very concerned about the loss of the service sector. If you know, a lot of the call centers are in Manila. If you are following Qatar Investment Authority last week or 2 weeks ago, they invested millions in a company that will automate call centers. So we talk about upskilling, but here we are facing sectors that are disappearing altogether. That's something we have to figure out how to respond to.
How would you figure it out? How would you figure it out?
I think that's a very, very important question. I think starting by recognizing the problem, it's very hard if you're in the US to realize there's a problem in Manila with the call center. So it's really about getting around this room, sharing thoughts, recognizing the problems, and working collaboratively to resolve it.
So I would add, how do you figure it out? You know, the first step is exactly what you're talking about, understanding the problem, having the data, having the evidence, and trying to make evidence-based decisions. But how do you do that? Well, for the ILO and for the UN, you apply, you know, what we have all already decided together as a community of nations are the standards. So how do you look at the problem and gather data and say, how do we apply the fundamental principles of freedom of association and the right to collective bargaining and the right to be free from forced labor and child labor and from discrimination? How do we apply those here? And I think I was really interested in Ghassan's statements about work-life balance and remote work, because these are really two ways that we can bridge the digital divide if we apply the concepts correctly. Often we think of work-life balance as well, that's a problem for people with high income, high education, right? But it's a problem for everyone. No matter what you do, no matter what your job is, you need work-life balance. You need adequate time off to spend with your family for rest and relaxation. That's a part of living a decent life. As well as remote work, that's a way to bring in, whether it's low-income people in a high-income country, or whether it's low and lower middle-income countries, to get these really high-tech jobs and people into the global economy, but recalling that we have to do that with decent work principles and promoting social justice. And one way to really do that, you know, from the ILO's perspective, kind of first, middle, and last, is social dialogue, conversations between employers' organizations, workers' organizations, and governments, to find the practical, on-the-ground solutions that will work and ensure that people have a voice in the world of work that they're going to be participating in.
I totally agree. It's all about, here also comes the, when it comes to the leadership, to the ILOs, to the ministries, this is the role that is very important to set the stage. So if we look about what you highlighted, really, Dr. Alexis, about the contact center AI, sometimes when, like during the World Cup, the Qatar 2022, there were a very important need about having contact center AI to leverage in a short time, in less than 1 month, a lot of different nationalities that if they have challenges, they need to reach out to a call center, and it's only for 1 month. So what happened, there were different contact center AIs for different organizations, Qatar organizations, where the first line was supported by the AI contact center. But if it didn't sort it out, then it went back to the real call centers, to the real agents to sort out the problem. So here, what I want to highlight, the AI will not replace. The AI will support and will enable. I know you didn't say that, but I just want to highlight that this is also our role as leadership, how we can set the right boundaries and the right technologies to support our teams and to support the communities in a way.
I think touching exactly on the last point that you just made, Ghassan, about AI not being there to replace. We've seen there's a lot of international debate worldwide in different countries, internally as well, about let's try to limit the advancements in artificial intelligence and different emerging technologies to avoid it becoming an existential crisis today. I think to Dr. Mishra's point earlier about balancing the old and the new, but we also have to remember the present. As policymakers, we're always asked to create policies for the future or plan better for the future, but we have an issue today that we need to deal with. There are things on the ground that need to be sorted out as well, and it goes to all of the points mentioned before me in this section of the discussion, is that this impacts everyone. But at the end of the day, technology, be it AI, be it any advanced and emerging technologies, was created by humans, for humans. At the end of the day, it's supposed to serve us. And we represent different things. We represent the businesses, we represent the employers and the employees, the workers, those that are unemployed as well, but are potential workers, academic institutions, and all of us come and view this with some mutual interests, but to a large extent there are different interests that are driving our approach towards all of this. Now, our role as a government entity, as the Ministry of Labor, is to kind of balance all of these opinions, to forge strong partnerships in order to address these challenges, but also create the forums where this can be discussed and where all of this can come. To your point, Celeste, about fostering the social dialogue, I am 100% with you, because the reality is different in different places. We have a special challenge here in Qatar that might not be a challenge in Geneva or in the United States or in Thailand or in Nigeria. There's different challenges that face all of us when it comes with the future of work, and the way that we approach this is through fostering all of this, all of the different sides, but keeping human purpose at the center of all of these discussions in all of our plans. Technology is not only helping us to be able to make these decisions, it is our challenge as well, that we need to look how to work with change and work with this challenge rather than looking to resist it, which will leave us behind inevitably.
Are we doing a good job, Sarab, so far?
It's a nuanced question, a nuanced answer. I think we cannot. You see, there's so much.
I save all the best nuanced questions for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Exactly as everyone in the panel is mentioning, these are all country context-specific questions. And I'll go further, these are sector-specific context questions as well, right? Something I know a little bit about is the infrastructure construction industry, which is, the largest industry on the planet, but behind the curve to adopt new technologies. If you looked at the labor market in North America, in the infrastructure construction industry, we would see that there's a labor shortage, 80 to 90% of 60+% of the projects are not able to find labor. There is about 13 to 23% of the labor is undocumented labor force in North America, and about 41% of the labor is about to retire in the coming 5 to 6 years. So the problem is turned upside down on its head, right? Because the question then becomes, how does data and AI help us increase efficiency and productivity in an industry that has a huge impact in this context on climatic change, better, sort of building things better at the early stages. Again, AI as a broad monolithic topic is one thing, but underlying this is, do we have foundational data to help increase efficiency in these industries, to address the labor shortage issues, but also the complex challenges here, right? Because in an industry that has been driven by human networks, like the industry I'm mentioning, how does data and AI augment decision-making, right, to help make better decisions? So I think these are, goes beyond just the challenges we're talking about right now.
Before I go to Ghassan and Alexis, I'm going to tell the audience, you have 5 minutes before I come to you. Let me see where the questions are. By show of hands. All right. Very good. Excellent. I'll be with you in a moment. Alexis, first of all, go ahead.
So I think of AI as an enhancement tool and not a skill. It just makes us more productive. It makes us do things we never realized we could do before. So there is a very good use of it, and we just heard about the construction industry. There are a couple of other things that may happen down the road. Number one, if we are more productive, maybe we'll have to work less. So we may go into a 3 or 4 day working week and have more time with our families and our friends. That's not a bad thing, and add basic income on top of that by the government, that's great. The other thing
But Alexis, I've been hearing about the 3 or 4 day working week since I was at school 30 years ago.
we didn't have AI.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's see.
So in 4 or 5 years' time, we'll be doing 3 or 4 day weeks?
Yes, if not, ice cream on me. The other thing is, so I have a friend, he launched one of the most successful gaming companies globally, and I said, if you look at your development team, it's all men, because they had the skill of programming. So you are lacking the intuition and the ideas and the creativity women can bring, because there was always this big barrier. They didn't have the coding skills, or not many of them had. But with AI, you can contribute now without having to learn coding. So we are breaking a very, very important barrier that would allow people that are creative, non-technical, but with great ideas to join and enhance the output and productivity, and that's something to be excited about.
Gassan, go ahead.
Amazing point, Doctor, related to the low-code, no-code, programming, that you are increasing the developers in the world in a crazy way. And this is something that will support more and more leveraging the AI in the best way possible. And that's why also on Google side, we are upskilling is a very key mission for us. We are launching different center of excellences in different parts of the world. We were so lucky and happy to launch our center of excellence 2 weeks back in Qatar, where we are committed to have more than 1,000 learners accessing physically our center of excellence with a lot of different programs that we are working with different ministries to support in skilling the workforce in the best way, other than the usual reach for the virtual trainings and virtual center of excellence, that already the tools and the things are already online.
All right, and now the audience. Good afternoon.
Thank you for this wonderful discussion. I just wanted to, my name is Dr. Balkis Ahmed. I'm really interested in international labor law, so I found this really fascinating. I just wanted to get back to what you said about human purpose, and I think that's really important, because at the end of the day, AI is a tool, it's an opportunity, and the ILO is very much about approaching things in a holistic manner, right? You talked about the barrier of STEM subjects being something that women are constantly trying to break into, but you also talked about the need for creativity. And I think one place where that would really work, and where we would ensure that there is a human purpose still to our understanding of AI, to ensure that it works for us and not against us, is by making sure that we adhere to that principle of discrimination, because the AI does what we teach it and what we put into it. So not to be negative, but there is always that danger that algorithms will get it wrong because we as humans get it wrong. So I just wanted to just hear a little bit about how we overcome that shortcoming in our human nature.
My favorite format of questions is not to be negative, but Celeste.
So, yeah, absolutely, and there's a reason to be cautious. I mean, we want to move fast, because I think some governments around the world are looking and thinking they didn't move fast enough in social media to sort of reap the benefits but protect against the risks. And I think the question with AI is the same. Everyone's running to adopt, but we do need to put guardrails. And those guardrails must protect against discrimination, in particular, as you said, when AI is learning off data, and that data is biased, and it assumes, for instance, that the best doctor is somebody who's a, European male, because that's the data that it's eating, essentially. We have to feed it different food, but we need humans in the loop, and that's part of the guardrails. None of what AI does is inevitable. We don't have to be fatalistic about whether it's current flaws or perceived future flaws. We can build it in a different way, and we can make sure that we are its masters and that it functions as a tool for us. And so that means a machine should not alone be making the decision, should somebody be hired? What is their performance analysis? Should they be fired? Because we need to be trained in terms of skilling. How do we take whatever AI spits out and recommends to us and evaluate it? Does this match my expertise and my experience? And how can I add as a human to that recommendation to make the best possible decision? So these are the kinds of things that we definitely need to do. And again, it goes back to social dialogue. How can workers and employers talk to each other in the workplace to make sure that these guardrails are in place and that it's working well and that the whole society is benefiting?
Shekhar, please weigh in.
Yes, if I may, just quickly on this point, on the whole point of the human purpose at the end and at the center of all of this. AI is here to support us, as Celeste mentioned, and as all of us, I think, have spoken to a little bit earlier today. But AI also works in a very, very specific way. It's objective-oriented. It will get you from point A to point B. Now, if it gets you there walking, on a bicycle, in a helicopter, in a plane, it doesn't care. It was given one mission, and it said, get me to that point. And that's why it will not, at least in the foreseeable future, I don't want to say big words and be proven wrong in the future. This is recorded at the end of the day. It will not replace people in the foreseeable future because it doesn't have our cognitive intelligence and the ability to factor in all of the different elements. So from that side, we're not concerned as much. It's about putting in the checks and balances and making sure that we let it work for us, not against us. But on the other side, AI, there's real risks with emerging technologies and with AI to create human complacency. While we've been discussing how it can increase efficiency and reduce the barrier of entry to a lot of different jobs and skills, at the end of the day, if we become overly reliant on it, it can also increase complacency and reduce what we are hoping to, which is the different skills. So our role in the Ministry of Labor, or as government representatives in general, is to put the checks and balances in place to constantly monitor, but not to resist the change out of the fear that it might create more harm than good, because we always approach it under the understanding that it will create more good than harm. Just how?
Saurabh, go ahead.
Just to quickly comment and jump off these points, I think one thing we do know, there's a lot we don't know, but one thing we do know is that the predictions are getting cheaper, and AI can generate, right, new content and things like that. But along with that, what is also certain is the need for cognitive skills and human judgment is valued significantly more. In the Pentagon and the DoD during post 9/11, there was this excellent quote actually that came out. There are the known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. I'm sure you're aware of that. But I think it quite equally applies in this technical concept as well as how humans interact with AI systems. There's a field which is perhaps the hottest field in AI today, and has been existed for a long time, called uncertainty quantification, which is to say, what does the model or the machine not know? Now, we could similarly say something about the state of human knowledge. What do human beings not know? So if you were to combine, right, the unknown unknowns, if you may, about what the machine does not know, and also what the human does not know, we could build fail-safe mechanisms, right? So the human value and judgment, right, could circumvent where the machine might be making error, and the machine could possibly help, right, where there is human error as well. And I think that's a very interesting intersection as we go to the future.
Alexis and Ghassan, are you happy with what your co-panelists said? Can I move on to the next question, or do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, please.
All right, very good.
Thank you so much. I want to appreciate the panelists. My name is Ife Arono from Nigeria. I am a broadcaster and a doctoral student. Interestingly, my topic is on artificial intelligence and broadcasting. So I'm looking at how broadcasters and broadcasting stations in the Global South and Nigeria specifically are adopting and integrating artificial intelligence. And the feelers I'm getting is that we haven't even started. And I come here and I'm told that the future of work is upon us. And I wonder if we're really ready. But now, this is 2024, and we know that the population of Africa has exceeded 1.5 billion by now. That's the projection. And by 2050, we're looking at over 2.5 billion people in Africa. So what policies should the global bodies who are regulating labor matters, ministries of labor, the ILO, what should they begin to do now to tap into this enormous labor potential of Africa?
So, yeah, I'll start. I mean, the one thing that we can say, the ILO, our constituents have not agreed on a standard for artificial intelligence yet. We are starting a discussion on the platform economy, which has a lot of overlap, in June at the International Labor Conference. But until such time as the ILC adopts any kind of new convention or recommendation, we do know that our recommendation to all governments would be, think about the fundamental principles and rights at work, those basic things that all ILO members agree to adhere to when they join. And as you think about that, in Nigeria, for instance, you've probably got millions of workers who are in the AI supply chain somewhere, probably helping to code and feed information. How do you think about, it's great that there are these job opportunities. How are you making sure that that work is decent work? And so, again, it's not about stopping or slowing down the technology, but how do you build an ecosystem, an economic ecosystem that creates an enabling environment for business and protects workers and ensures that those fundamental principles and rights at work?
Please go ahead, Shekhar.
Just very quickly as well on this point, one of the main things is the demands of industry for labor is going to at some point be less than the supply of labor that is worldwide, not just here in Doha or in any of the, or in our region, or not even in Africa as well. And so one of the things that we're trying to foster is an ecosystem of lifelong learning. We need to keep adapting with these changes to be able to meet, to be able to provide for the supply of labor, different jobs. There are different studies by industry giants that have looked at predicting what are the future of jobs, what jobs and what economies are going to thrive in the upcoming 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So one of the biggest things is looking at those and making sure that in the future the labor market meets those needs. If the African continent reaches 2 billion, what are the individuals that are ready to be part of the labor market specialized in? What skills do they have? The skill of being able to retain skills is one of the most important things to adapt with the changes. But we're seeing forecasts, for example, in the care industry and the care economy is going to require more labor in the future. The digital economy obviously would always require more and more specialized individuals. And so looking at where and how industries and how the workforce is trained is one of the biggest responsibilities for us as governments, to ensure that we provide for our human capital the jobs that they require in the future, but also provide for the industries that we represent, because the businesses are part of the core stakeholders for the government.
One final question from the audience.
Thank you. I'm Ambet Yuson. I'm the General Secretary of the Building and Woodworkers International. I'm behind the future of workers, so I represent the workers. No, I think it's an important component. I'd like to ask our expert in AI, so I think it's interesting to use the data, but it's more focused on productivity, efficiency. I'd like to know if you are also developing, because in construction industries, it's a different field. It's a dangerous industry, and there are a lot of unknowns, no? But are you developing mechanism wherein how can you make the construction work safer? That's one issue, no? And making sure, telling the workers, the human being, that there's an unknown. You should protect yourself, no? I think that's an area I want to know it's being developed. The second, of course, issue around the world when it comes to construction workers, are they being paid well? You know, or are they being the right wages? The issue of trafficking of workers around the world, no? Are we able to detect this? So the second question is you mentioned about the unknown. Can we also develop the AI to admit, okay, because in construction, it's not just the work, it's also cultural. You know, there are personal, subjective issues from different countries. So can the AI said, oops, I cannot do that. You need a human intervention in this. You know, because for us from the unions, many things we find out, we're doing inspection, many things we found out is on the job. And that the machine cannot probably see. Thank you.
So that question is basically, what can AI do? Sarab and Celeste are pointing to each other. You take it. No, you take it. All right.
This is
Can
more of a
AI?
Celeste kind of question,
This is going to be
actually.
very quick, and I'll start at Ghassan. So, can AI work with safety for workers, make workers be paid well, stop trafficking, and many other things that are probably on a long list of what workers need and deserve?
Yeah.
What's possible?
Yeah,
Briefly.
I can start and then I will give it to my colleagues. So it's when you are talking about laborers, let's say about workers, and especially in tough areas, I can mention there are a lot of, now with the edge solutions, with the Internet of Things, there are a lot of things that AI can leverage where workers could be in a danger zone if they need to perform. So let's say about, especially in the region, in the Gulf, we are very well known about the oil and gas industry. The oil and gas industry is not an easy job for the laborers. So when you are bringing solutions like predictive maintenance, where you will be able to know if there is anything not working in the plant through the IoT, through the edge solutions, this is something that we are making sure that the workers are safe, because we are able to know what's working and what's not working beforehand. Leveraging, like as Google, I don't want to promote Google, but we have the Google Earth Engine and many solutions that we can scan and we can know. And on top of it, how we are making workers really safe. We are even trying to reduce carbon emission in those plants. So there are a lot of solutions on the sustainability that can make a difference in such environments. So it's a 360-degree view on how we can reduce and make sure for many workers in different industries, not only us as Google, and a lot of AI and technology providers that can make a safe environment and better environment for workers.
All right,
Sorry.
Celeste.
I would just say, of course, I mean, AI can solve whatever problem you deploy it to solve if you feed it the right data. So for sure, it could help with worker safety. But there's all kinds of things happening now with technology, robotics, AI. You can monitor for heat stress. You can have robotic-assisted lifting. So there are a lot of ways that it can be deployed to help worker safety, but society has to make the choice to do that, or companies have to decide that it's effective and productive for them to invest in that manner. And I think some of these other questions about worker pay and, you know, all that goes back to the human element. And I heard the interesting comment about 3 or 4 day work weeks. And I think, you know, we've all maybe been hearing about this our whole lives. And part of that answer might be, are workers and employers talking together about how to negotiate the benefits from AI so that workers can benefit from having an extra day off? And by the way, companies that are experimenting with shorter work weeks are finding more productive workers. So there's a lot there, but it will always, and I think you explained really well, always require people in the loop to make decisions, and to make decisions based on what they feel is the best for their society, right, their interest group. And what we can do at the ILO is offer technical assistance to anyone who wants it to help achieve the fundamental principles and rights of work, which we believe are good for workers, good for employers, right, and good for whole economies.
So I'm going to wrap up this session by focusing on the last part of the session title, Who's Ready? In 30 seconds, Alexis and panel, your final thought on who's ready for the future of work. How do we prepare?
Oh, easy. I don't know. We are trying to find what questions to ask before we find the answers.
I appreciate your honesty, Sarab.
I want to take the opportunity to address the gentleman's question as well, if I may.
Sure, you have 30 seconds to do both.
Stop me. My work is more upstream than what you asked, and again, I think Celeste is more of an expert on the topic, but I think a lot of the questions on ergonomic and on-site work construction and the meta questions you asked, right, about migration policies. You see, there are limits to AI also, but there are a lot of classical approaches which have addressed multi-sensor fusion on the site and IoT sensors like work like that. But when we look at the complexities, right, of global economics, trade, and these questions, it all comes down to contextual understanding of these multidimensional topics. So the AI is trained with that context to help inform these very complex questions. And again, these are very domain-specific questions, and it can be addressed to do that if models are trained to address them. But let me pause there.
And who's ready? Ghassan is ready.
Yeah.
Very good. Go ahead.
I'm not.
You fulfitted that question.
Yeah, so I think who's ready, it all depends on the leadership, on the regulators, on the ministries, because this is how we will be able to make things ready.
Celeste.
I'm not sure anybody's ready. Maybe the biggest AI companies that have the most intelligence. But I will say the world is trying to get ready. And the Global Digital Compact and the upcoming World Summit for Social Development, which will be hosted here, and I'm sure AI will be a big topic there. I think we are all trying to get ready. But one way we can get ready is to really not stop thinking about this as the future and think about it as the now, because that will help us get ready much faster.
Shaker, finally.
Unfortunately, I don't think the question should be who's ready, and I know it's maybe too late to say that, but it's about how do we get ready, because it's inevitable and it's happening. And the way we see it is that you get ready by building and fostering partnerships across all different sectors and industries, and ensuring that we operate under a principle of lifelong learning and adjustments, building agile governance, but also adaptive policies that can move with us as we move in general.
Oh, panel, it's been so... No.
Finally.
This is what happens when we have real people, not AI. AI would have finished by now, but we have a real person who is disrupting in a beautiful way, as is normal in the Doha Forum. Surab, go ahead.
I'll do one sentence.
Please, go ahead.
Much jumping after the point. It's not really who's ready, but how do we build resilience, right, and agility to come back up? I think that's more of a question we should consider.
I love that you are reframing the entire question for the session in the last 10 seconds of the session. Yes! All right. It says here, I'm Femi OK, I'm your moderator, and I'm co-founder of Nothing. This is not true. I am co-founder of Moderate the Panel, which is a global organization that brings you MCs and moderators, diverse MCs and moderators from all over the world. I want to thank our brilliant panel. And thank you. You could be anywhere at the Doha Forum. I love that you were in Salwa 3 for the last 45 minutes. Thank you so much.